Hey everyone, today I have the Akko Neon 3061. This keyboard was provided to me by Epomaker for my honest review. They had no say in the creation of this video and did not see it before it went live. The reason why I was interested in this keyboard was mainly because of the keycaps, but we'll get into that later. In the box, you'll find the keyboard, the user manual, which is really helpful in learning about the backlight, Bluetooth, macro, and other functionalities, a purple USB-C to USB-A cable to match the theme of the keyboard, a keycap puller, and I appreciate that it's the wired one, and finally extra accent keys. Although some of the keys don't really make sense, like why are there function and arrow keys for a 60% keyboard? I'm not quite sure where I would put those. The case is a plastic tray-mounted case that you've probably seen before on keyboards like the RK61. It has a high-profile design, meaning you can't see the switches when the keycaps are on. The USB-C port is to the left of the keyboard, and below the keyboard are 4 rubber feet to prevent it from slipping around. You have the option to prop the keyboard at a higher angle with these 2 small feet, and at an even higher angle with the 2 larger feet. I think these feet make the typing angle way too high, so I keep them collapsed. There's backlit LEDs on each switch, but the stock keycaps are not shine through, so the lighting creates an aura effect around the keycaps. Lastly, there's an off-on switch for Bluetooth. If you want to use this keyboard wired, you keep the switch in the off position. The switches I have here are Gateron Oranges, which I've never heard of until I got this keyboard. They're tactile switches and feel like Gateron Brown, so they have a light tactile bump. This keyboard also comes with Gateron Pinks, which I believe are linear switches that are similar to Reds, Gateron Green, a clicky switch, Gateron White, I have no idea what this is, and Gateron Yellows, a heavier linear switch than Pink or Reds. The switches are north facing, meaning that the backlit LEDs is on the top. Generally, this means that there would be interference with Cherry Pro keycaps on the home row, and the keycaps on this keyboard are Cherry Profile. But after some testing, I wasn't able to notice any major issues with north-facing switches on this keyboard. I'm going to play some sound tests for you, then review which one is north-facing at the very end. Were you able to tell which one was north-facing? Generally, Cherry Profile keycaps on north-facing switches would result in a clackier, higher-pitched sound from the keycaps hitting the switch housing preemptively, but I wasn't able to notice much of a difference this time around. This keyboard has a 1800 mAh battery, and according to the manual, 3 hours of charge will give up to 90 hours of typing with the backlight off. You'll get about 12 hours with the backlight on. But since the keyboard doesn't come with shine-through keycaps, I'm not sure why you would keep the backlight on at the expense of battery life. I didn't fully test this, but I did use this keyboard for about 1.5 weeks for about 3 or 4 hours a day, and it held up just fine, but I'm not sure how much battery was left. To save power, the Bluetooth goes into sleep mode after 10 minutes of inactivity. You can save up to 4 Bluetooth-enabled devices to this keyboard, and you cycle through them with function E to Y. Pairing was pretty simple. Go to an unassigned Bluetooth slot on your keyboard with the function E, R, T, or Y, then the key will blink rapidly. Then go to your device and pair it with the Akko keyboard. This keyboard supports hardware-based macros, so you won't need to download any additional software. The instructions are pretty clear on how to create a macro, but my biggest issue here is how long it takes to use your macros. You can only activate the macros you created by entering into macro mode, which is done by holding down function and left windows for a few seconds. From here, you can create new macros or use the ones you've already created. To create a macro, enter into the macro editor with function and escape. Next, select the key you want to create the macro on with function plus any key. The key that will be assigned a macro will start blinking rapidly. Now type out the macro that you want, then save it with function plus the key that you're assigning the macro to. There is now a solid light on that key to show that there's a macro created on it, and in this case, it's the pipe key. You can now press the key to use your macro. You can exit the macro editor with function and escape. At this point, you're still in macro mode, so whenever you tap on a key with an assigned macro, it'll activate the macro that you just created. To exit out of this mode, hold down function and left Windows again for a few seconds. You can create a macro for hotkeys, like if you want a key to quickly refresh with Ctrl R, but I wasn't able to create a macro that uses the function keys, such as Alt F4 to close a program. I'm assuming it's because to get to F4, you have to use the function key, but the function key is already used for functionalities in the macro editor. So the experience going from regular typing to using macros is a bit janky. It would have been great if I could quickly access the macros by toggling a second layer with a function key, instead of having to wait several seconds with function and left Windows. Alright, keycaps. Let's first talk about the physical characteristics of the keycaps. They're a cherry profile made out of 85% PBT, and according to my contact, the rest of the 15% is a mixed high-profile resin material. I have no idea what that means. They're double shot, meaning the legends are created with the same plastic material as the keycaps, so they won't wear out over time. And the thickness is about 1.5mm-ish, so definitely in the thick keycap territory. The homing keys are both scooped and have the homing bars, which is interesting because it's usually one or the other. So I guess these keys are extra homing. Lastly, I found the colors to be pretty nice. The legends are crisp, but there is a small typo with the caps lock key. There's a missing space between caps and lock. Epomaker actually sells the keycaps as a separate set for $60 US. You get enough keycaps to cover basically any size, unless you have one of those niche 40% layouts. And from what I'm seeing here with this keyboard, I think $60 is a good value for this keycap set. But let's go back to why I was interested in this keyboard and its keycaps. The similarities to GMK Laser. GMK Laser is a high-end ABS keycap set. The first group buy ran in 2017, and since then it has ran a couple more times and even in a different profile. Both the Laser and Neon set follow the cyberpunk theme. No, not that one, and the colors are very similar. One quick look at this keycap set, and you could say that they're just ripping off GMK Laser, and I would mostly agree, but if you Google image search cyberpunk aesthetic, you'll basically find a lot of purples, blues, and reds. I do think the colors of this neon set could have been changed more to be different from GMK Laser and still fit into the cyberpunk theme, or even get inspiration from these neon images here, because this set is called Akko Neon, not Akko Cyberpunk. I'm bringing this up because I would like to know the viewers' opinions on these cheaper keycap sets popping up, being essentially clones of higher end sets. You can find a lot of copycat these days, such as the ones by HK Gaming. I'm pretty split on this. On one hand, clones are bad because they're profiting off a designer's creative work. On the other hand, these keycap sets are very difficult to get. Not only are they expensive, making it cost prohibitive for a lot of folks, but they're also very limited because you can only buy them during a 1 month period, then wait however many months it takes for them to be shipped. And if you miss out, then you have to wait for a second or third run if that ever happens. Maybe what it comes down to is this: do these cheaper keycap sets hurt the sale of the original, more expensive ones? Right now, I don't think so. The cheaper copycats will always come out later because they're copycats at the time where the group buy for the original sets is already over. So it won't hurt the sale of the first run, but what about the potential second or third runs? My guess is still no. This hobby is growing really fast, and for the folks who are willing to spend like $200 or more on a custom keyboard, which seems to be a lot of them these days considering how fast things sell out, I don't think the sale of GMK Laser around 3 or 4 or 5 will be affected by this Akko Neon set. I think GMK is still better at having crisp legends, and you get the chance to buy all of the fun novelties to further customize your keyboard. Overall, I think this Akko Neon set, the sets by HK Gaming, and other copycats are fulfilling a need. A need for more budget-oriented keycap sets for folks who don't want the benefits that comes with buying an expensive GMK set. And it's unfortunate that they're doing it by knocking off popular sets, but not everyone can afford to spend $100 or more on just a base kit, or want to wait for a group buy to be shipped like a year later. The supply isn't meeting demand, so naturally someone is going to fulfill it. I'm not going to fault anyone for buying clones, but I'm not going to do it myself. I'll finish my thought here by saying that I do like how the Akko Neon set isn't a direct knockoff of GMK Laser. They do have their own novelties, but I do wish the colors were a bit more different. This HK Gaming Pegasus set, however, is a straight knockoff. I mean, they didn't even bother to change the name. Let's summarize my thoughts about this keyboard. The Akko Neon 3061 at $110 is pretty pricey. Let's take a look at a couple of wireless keyboard competitors. The Red Dragon K530 at $65 has a 3000 mAh battery with Bluetooth 5.0. And the Keychron K6 can be configured with an aluminum frame and hot swappable sockets for $100, but also it comes with a 4000 mAh battery and Bluetooth 5.1. However, where the Neon 31 stands out from the rest of the competition are the keycaps. I don't have those keyboards on hand to compare, but I am very confident that the keycaps on this keyboard are way better. So if you're buying this keyboard, you're exchanging features like hot swappable sockets and a larger battery for a quality keycap set and a matching cable and case. Yes, this keyboard does support hardware macros, but I don't think it's worth mentioning considering how hard it is to use. But if that doesn't sound worth it to you, then you can always buy the keycap set separately and put it on something like the K530 for about the same price as this keyboard. That's it for me today. Please like the video if you found it interesting and subscribe to stay updated on my future content. Until next time.